before I get started, I want to thank, first and foremost, Indy Reads, because as a first-time author, it's not always easy finding a venue that's willing to take you in if your name is not already known. So I walked in with not even a book to show them, just the book is coming. And without any type of hesitation, they said, when do you want the place? So if you all will join me and just clap for Indy Reads for welcoming us all. Second, I would like to thank my publisher, Widow Publishing. Another great story in that I finished my novel and I sort of sat on it for a while and then decided, okay, well, you're not getting any younger, so if you want to publish, you should perhaps start sending it out. And when I sent it to my publisher, and the woman there who read it the first time immediately contacted me within days and said, we want your book. So I have to thank them for taking a chance with me. I want to thank my family, my sons Michael and Justin, and I want to thank Bree and Richie for supporting them. I want to thank my husband, of course, Robert. Without him, this whole thing wouldn't have even been envisioned, because he's been running from day one. And maybe after tonight, he won't keep telling all his deep-ass family about his wife and her book.
No, don't count on that.
And then, not here, but here, I want to thank three spirits. One is my grandmother, Elena. I never got the opportunity to meet her. I was adopted. And by the time I found my birth family, she'd already passed away. But when I found my aunts, the first thing that they showed me was a box of poems that she used to write. So I knew immediately that even though she and I never connected on the physical level, that we had always connected on the spiritual and the mental. So I thank her. And I also thank Judith Brown. She was my mother-in-law. She is my mother-in-law. And she believed in me well before anyone even thought to give me the encouraging word about my writing. So for her, this moment is about her. But more, the last but not least is my daddy, MC Jackson. And he used to listen to these little made-up stories when I was about this high, when I would get the books with Cinderella and all the others and paint them brown skin and start naming them different names other than Cinderella, because I wanted stories that looked like me. And he said to me, you're going to be a writer someday. And so this moment is, of course, for him, too. So I do appreciate that wonderful introduction from my sister, but that's not me. I'm going to let you know who I am. When you look at me, you see not just an adopted baby with an unknown pedigree, but a baby shuffled from one front porch monarch to the other, each trying to mark me, massaging their imprint into my skin with gnarled fingers in an effort to make me their own. I'm a love child, created by my daddy's callous hands, hands that were rubbed soft with Jergens lotion and Vaseline after long days of toiling for what seemed like at times only a few dimes and nickels. I'm a country girl begat by country folk, who often got pecked by the beak of Jim Crow, but occasionally got the chance to peck him back. I'm a blues child who just as hard as the grown folks when J.W. Warren plucked blues harmonies in the guise of gospel tunes in order to satisfy both the tea drinkers and the shine sippers, who all congregated under the Saturday night altar of a vast Alabama sky. I'm a sometimes fearful child who was warned about the Billy Bobs and the Joe Nathans and the Cooter Lees who would whoop it up on back country roads and side streets, screaming out racial epitaphs that burned crosses into the souls of the hearer. But in a pinch, these men would do you right, whether you were white or whether you were black. But most of all, I am a storyteller who is tied to generations of other proud storytellers whose stories I carry in my belly like unborn babies, waiting for the day when emancipation comes so I can be the first to set those stories free.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't done that in a minute. That's kind of fun. So I do want to read just a little bit from Drinking from a Bitter Cup to give you kind of a taste, because when you read a book that's based on Southern stories, it's not just words on a page. It's the inflection, you know. It's the and it's the and if you can't get that in the writing, then you miss part of it. So maybe by reading just a little, you'll get that in your head, and when you're reading these character stories, you'll hear them, and they'll speak to you like they spoke to me. So I'm going to start at the very beginning. That's the best place to start, right?
Yeah.
1978, the year I turned 10 and the year my mama killed herself. She was 35 and dying is the last thing that should have been on her mind. People used to say mama had an earthy beauty about her, almost like one day she just sprung up from the ground like a field of wild honeysuckle or a tall, sprawling chinaberry tree. She had skin the color of melted toffee and hair that was thick and curling, hanging in wild, unruly waves on her shoulders. Everything needs to be free, Sylvia. Even hair, she'd say. Mama would let me wear my hair loose like hers on the weekends, but for school she would put them in cornrows or plaits that hung to my shoulders. I remember spending hours on the front porch, me sitting between Mama's legs, holding the can of Royal Crown while she sectioned my hair into little parts and rubbed hair grease into them. I swear, your head has never been loved on till somebody's oiled your scalp. While she tended to my hair, she would cornrow it and tell me fairy tales, except in her stories, the main characters were little black girls who looked like me. You see, there was this one girl called Little Red, and she was going down the block a ways to see a big mama who was feeling kind of poorly, Mama would say, while she braided my hair as tight as she could. At times, my scalp would feel like it was on fire. At times, I could have sworn she gathered up some of my scalp into those little mini braids. I would forget how much the hair hurt, because in those moments, I became Little Red Riding Hood, or Gretel, or Sleeping Beauty. It didn't matter I didn't favor any of the pictures of those fairy tale girls who were in my storybooks. All that mattered was Mama had a way of making me, with my dark skin and my flat nose and my long nappy hair, feel just like a fairy princess. Mama and me lived in a 2-story house in the west end of Louisville where most of the poor black people lived. Our house was one of the smaller ones. Mama rented it from this fat white dude named Louie. In fact, most folks called him Fat Louie behind his back. He never talked much. He just came to the door on the first Friday of every month with his hand out for Mama's rent check. Our house was one of the most run down. Every first Friday, Mama would complain to Fat Louie about the things he needed to fix, but he would just look past her. Mama would stuff the windows with paper to keep out the air. The front porch had almost caved in on one side, but inside our house there was beauty. Always surround yourself with color, Sylvia, she said. Then you'll never be sad. Nobody can be sad when they're surrounded by color. So our walls were painted bright sunflower yellows and deep azure blues and eye-popping emerald greens. I called our house Oz, and I loved to pretend I was Dorothy. I didn't have a real dog, but I had a little stuffed dog with a missing left eye. I called him Toto. For my 8th birthday, me and Mama planned this elaborate birthday party and invited 30 of the kids from our class, and we said, dress like your favorite character in The Wizard of Oz. Every time I thought about my party, I would get excited. I just knew it was going to be the best party ever. I woke up at 2 in the morning and put on my party clothes. And when Mama finally got up a few hours later, she laughed at my silliness, but she let me stay in my clothes. Finally, the time for my party grew near. The invitation said the party would begin at 2 p.m., but I told Mama we should have everything ready by no later than 1:30, just in case people show up early. 2 o'clock came. Girl, you know how black folks are with time, Mama said. They're just running late. Don't worry. 3:30 came. Maybe we didn't put down the right time. I could try calling up some folks. Then came 4. Then 5:50. I'm sorry, baby. I was heartbroken. Not a single kid showed up. Miss Cora, our next door neighbor, came, but to me she didn't count. She didn't count because she was grandmother age. I wanted kids my age to attend my party. Mama said it didn't matter that those kids didn't show up because we were going to eat cake and play like we were Glinda, the Good Witch, and Dorothy. Come on, girl, hop to it. We're about to be off to see the wizard, she announced with her hands on her hips. I stood up and wiped the tears as they slowly inched down my face. Come on, girl. The Tin-Man, Scarecrow, and Cowardly Lion are waiting for you, girlfriend. Mama took me by the hand and we ran into her room. She put on her long white dressing gown, and then she put on a little crown from my toy box she'd made with aluminum foil and perched it on her head all cockeyed. I already had on my blue and white pinafore and the red Buster Brown shoes Mama got me for my birthday. Mama told me to go get Toto, and then we were dancing around the room singing, we're off to see the wizard. I forgot about the fact no one showed up for my birthday. Mama and I had so much fun, and at that moment, sadness had no way to touch us. Along with showing you a little bit of a glimpse into her relationship, Sylvia's relationship with her mother, I also wanted to allow you to see a glimpse of her relationship with her father. Her father has always been a man in a photo. She never got to see him growing up. Her mother felt like Sylvia was the best of her, and she didn't want to share her with anyone. So she didn't get to see him until the day of her mother's funeral. So this is as Sylvia's father, Hank, is preparing to take her from Louisville, Kentucky to Alabama. Whenever I felt his eyes on me during the funeral, I would glare back at him. I was mad at him for not saving Mama all those years ago. I was mad that he stood there near me while my Mama couldn't. And most of all, I was mad he was there to take me to leave my home. He smiled at me, but I turned back to him, pressing my face into Miss Cora's waist like a small animal burrowing into the ground. And when it was time to leave the cemetery, Miss Cora walked over to him. You take good care of my Sylvie, she said, wiping tears away from her eyes with a white lace handkerchief. She bent down and kissed my forehead. You be good, Sylvie. You show Mr. Butler how well your mama raised you. God be with you, sweetheart. Don't forget to say your prayers, she said, and walked away. Miss Cora's nephew, Leon, came over and kissed my cheek. Be strong, little sister, he said. I watched him lead Miss Cora away and help her into the passenger seat of his car. She waved as they pulled away. Are you ready to go, Sylvia? He asked. So they get into the car and go over to the home that she shared with her mother. You have to jiggle it a little, I finally told him, suddenly anxious to go inside. This is the door to their home. The only thing I wanted to do was to go climb in Mama's bed and pretend like she was lying beside me, holding me tight. What did you say, honey? You have to jiggle the key a little. The lock is rusty. In fact, Mr. Louie never fixed it. He jiggled the key, and after a few tries, the door finally opened. He led me into the room, and I stopped at the front entrance where a charcoal drawing of me hung on the wall. Is that you in the picture, he asked. Mama drew it, I said. He touched it and then looked at me. It favors you. Your mama was good. May I take it? I shrugged like I didn't care. If you want to. He gently removed the little frame drawing from the wall and stared at it more closely. I'll wrap it in paper so it won't get broken, he said, setting it down on the table. Do you have your things packed? I shook my head. I didn't know what I could take. Miss Cora said I should wait for you and see what you wanted me to take. He said, you can take anything. We'll put as much as we can in the trunk of my car, and I'll go rent a little trailer to put on the back. I avoided his eyes. He had such kind eyes, but I wasn't ready to like him yet. I was still angry at him, and his being so nice did not help. A part of me wanted to ask him to hold me on his lap like Mama used to. Another part of me wanted to scream at him that he was too late. He should have come for Mama and me a long time ago. Sylvia, he said, sweetheart, I know this is hard, but we need to get you packed up. We need to get you back to Ozark by tomorrow if possible. Show me where your room is, and I'll help you start packing. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I felt like my voice had been stolen. I just led him up the stairs to my bedroom. He walked over to my bookshelf and stood. Did you read all of these books, he asked. I immediately found my voice. I was afraid he wouldn't let me take my books. Most of them. I like reading. May I take my books, please? Of course you can, he said, and busied himself packing the books. After he finished packing, he helped me to pack my clothes and toys. I put everything in the boxes except for Toto, the little stuffed dog. Suddenly I remembered the jewelry box of my mother's and ran to her room. The room still smelled like honeysuckle. I ran and jumped into Mama's bed, holding her pillow, inhaling her smell. I squeezed Mama's pillow hard like I was hugging Mama. I tried to inhale every inch of her. Miss Honeysuckle Rose, I whispered. I took the pillow from the bed. It was flat and had clearly had better days, but it smelled like my mama, so I wanted to take it with me. Then I stuffed things inside the pillowcase. I put the little bottle of scented perfume, the jewelry box, and the Polaroid Uncle Ray took of me and Mama a few days before he died. We were sitting on top of his car making funny faces and hugging. I gazed down at the urn with my Uncle Ray's ashes. Don't worry, Uncle Ray. I'm going to get you to the beach some kind of way, I said, carefully placed it at the bottom of the pillowcase. I walked out to the stair landing and stood, waiting to be told what to do next. Daddy was waiting for me. Let's go, sweetheart. You'll like Ozark. There are plenty of little girls and boys your age in our neighborhood, most of them your cousins. You'll have all sorts of friends before you know it. And my wife, Vivian, well, she just can't wait to meet you. We've always wanted a little girl. I nodded and clutched the pillowcase with all of my precious things inside while still holding on to Toto. My daddy had taken all the boxes to the car, so there was nothing left for us to do but leave. Miss Cora told him that she and Leon would pack up the rest. My legs were all wobbly when he locked the door to the house. I sat down hard on the steps of my front porch, still holding on to Mama's pillow and Toto. Baby, are you okay? Do you want me to carry you? I'm 10. I'm not a baby, I said, hot tears threatening to break through and scald my face. You are a big girl, a very big, brave girl, he said, and sat down beside me. Sylvia, honey, I know this is hard. I shook my head. No, you don't. You don't know anything. You didn't come back for her. You left her here all by herself. Daddy was silent for a few minutes. I shivered from the cold. He turned towards me and tried to put his hand on my shoulder, but I pulled away. She waited for you. My throat was so hoarse I thought maybe I was catching a cold. All this time she waited, and you never came back for her, for us. Sylvia, he said, you're right, I didn't come back. If I had known about you, I would have. But sweetheart, believe me, there's so much more to all of this than you understand. I don't want to go to Alabama. Please let me stay here with Miss Cora. She loves me. She won't mind keeping me. You belong with me, Sylvia, he said. You are right to feel the way that you feel. And I was out of place to say I know what you are feeling. All I can do is tell you it will get better. Maybe not today, or tomorrow, or the day after that, but it will get better. I promise. Thank you.